Hi. I'm back with another report, and this one's a doubles match, a 3000 points per side Tempest of War mega battle full of huge stompy things.
Never expected this, did you?
My 1000 sons with a little magical sprinkling of Tzeentch demons are teaming up with some excessively depraved demons of Slaanesh, against word bearers and world eaters. Right, let's take a look at the rosters. The opponent's rosters are a bit approximate, but I think I've covered them pretty well. Here's a shot of the whole table. Yep, we're gonna have 3 greater demons, 2 demon primarchs, a chaos knight, a soul grinder, and a brass scorpion duking it out. Here's a better shot of the Slaaneshi goodness.
Yum.
Note the striking warp storm themed bases, and a closer look at the incredible brass scorpion and chaos knight. Note also that in this match Scarbrand is being proxied as Angron.
As far as I'm concerned, he poses a very real threat.
Our mission rules: Crucible of Battle, Secret Intel, and Priority Targets. Now I'll just say straight up that I didn't do an amazing job of keeping a record of our secondary cards etc.
You fucking idiot.
But you'll just get a sense of the carnage as we go, and I do know the final score at the end. This report's likely to be a bit longer than usual as well. With all that said, let's get into the battle. Battle lines are drawn. As the enemy doesn't have much in the way of shooting, we start most of our models on the board. The Scarab Occult Termies go in deep strike along with 1 unit of demonettes. We deploy everything else pretty aggressively, and the blue horrors and a spawn hold our home objective in the bottom left corner. Across the table, world eaters load up the top right corner with the Scorpion, Angron, Demon Prince, and 2 units of Exalted 8-bound. They put 1 unit of Exalted in deep strike, and the regular 8-bound in reserve. Word bearers hold the home objective with their halberd, and dominate the lower half of their deployment zone. The Disc Lord is just out of shot, below the Termies, and the Chaos Knight goes into reserve.
I don't like the sound of that.
The enemy get the first turn, and draw no retreat, extend battle lines, and storm hostile. Here's movement. The World Eater's contingent surges forward, but it's too far for them to make any turn 1 charges. Angron follows behind the Scorpion so that he can avoid being charged by any Keepers of Secrets next turn. 8-bound take the central objective. The Word Bearers are obviously a lot slower, so they just advance forwards from their corner but make sure to keep behind the obscuring terrain. A shot from our corner, so you can better see what we have over this side of our deployment zone. The only shooting is from the Brass Scorpion. Its Demolisher cannon targets the Soul Grinder, but we luck out on its demon saves, and it only suffers 4 wounds. With its other gun it kills a few demonettes. That ends the turn, and the enemy obviously scores extend battle lines. Our turn 1 cards are Assassination, Raise Banner, and Storm Hostile. Here's our movement. We're gonna need a fair bit of heavy lifting now to make sure we don't just get obliterated next turn. That Scorpion has to die.
We're gonna make it happen, one way or the other, and that I guarantee.
Demonettes flood the narrow passes, and the Fiends actually have a decent shot at charging the 8-bound in the center. Magnus and Big Bird, that's the Lord of Change, both fly to within casting range of the Scorpion, and both keepers move up just in case we need to finish it off in combat. Pretty epic shot here, as the 2 graceful demons of excess square up to the towering behemoth. Psychic goes very, very well. I have just 8 Cabal points, but they prove invaluable, as I'm able to boost the range of a Twist of Fate from Magnus to strip the Scorpion's invulnerable save. The Scorpion has an incredible rule which allows it to completely ignore each and every psychic power cast against it, on a 4+, but it just gets unlucky and barely stops any spells this phase. We do a total of 10 mortal wounds to it all told, bringing it down to 18 wounds remaining. The fiends also get hysterical frenzied, and the exalted gets off presage and weaver onto the laser destroyer, giving it +1 to hit and a 4-up invulnerable. In shooting, yep. The laser destroyer takes aim, and puts 3 6 damage shots onto the scorpion, which conveniently adds up to 18 damage which it has no save against.
Bang, bang. Sound familiar?
The laser destroyer adds another name to its long list of incredible kills. I mean, with Magnus throwing out reliable twists of fate, it's just frickin' nuts. The soul grinder then targets Angron and does 11 wounds to him, leaving him on 7. The fiends then charge the exalted A-bound in the center, but only kill 2, and the survivor kills 2 fiends in retaliation. Unfortunately, the keepers are too far away to charge Angron. So, this turn we scored Ray's banner with one of the demonette units. We're neck and neck on points, then. Battle round 2, and Angron and the demon prince prepare to exact a bloody revenge. The Chaos Knight also pops out of reserves, up on the top edge of the board and 9 inches away from Zarakhinal, and in the ruins, here, 3 of the exalted 8-bound deep strike 9 inches away from the soul grinder. This is unfortunately the only pick I snapped of movement. In the back corner, the word-bearer's ball of unholy death presses forwards, but is still somewhat far from the action. In Psychic, the word-bearers just buff up their termies and I think heal some wounds on their Psyker, who I forgot to mention had rolled perils last turn and then CP re-rolled into another perils. In shooting, the knight is positioned to see the laser destroyer, and its gun does a horrifying D3 plus 6 damage, so it's more than capable of taking it out. It takes aim, gets 2 hits, and 2 wounds. I have a 4+ invulnerable save, and pass both of them. Good old laser destroyer.
It's my favorite.
Between the Night Stubbers or whatnot and the Demon Prince's warp bolter, they managed to kill the spawn that was in front of the demonettes, though. Charge time, and things start to look very worrying. The Chaos Knight makes its long bomb charge into Zarakhinal, and Angron charges Shallaxi. The Demon Prince charges the demonettes, and another long bomb charge is successful, with the exalted 8-bound crashing into the soul grinder.
Oh shit. Shit indeed.
So, they go with the knight first, into Zarakhinal. We pop Impossible Elegance on Zarakhinal, and the knight just completely whiffs, getting I think only a single wound which is then saved.
No mere weapon can stop me!
Shallaxi then interrupts, and easily slays Angron. It's not all sunshine and roses, however, as the exalted 8-bound over here completely muller the soul grinder. The fiend in the center gets easily dispatched by some more 8-bound, too. The demon prince just slays a handful of demonettes but gets brought down to 1 wound remaining by their graceful retaliation.
He got beat up so bad.
And Zarakhinal's elegant claws leave the knight on just 3 wounds remaining. It's our turn too, and things are looking pretty good, although there's the looming threat of Angron returning hanging over us, and we've yet to deal with the word-bearer's termies. Anyway, here's movement, and a few units scramble to deal with the 8-bound that just killed the soul grinder. Magnus flaps to a high vantage point in the center and contemplates his next move.
There's gonna be carnage.
Both keepers head for the central 8-bound, and finally, the scarab occult termies deep strike in the enemy's backfield, to try and clear the Hellbrit off their home objective. Oh look, I actually have another picture of some cards. So we still have Storm hostile, and we scored Assassination last turn from killing Angron, so I don't know why it's still here.
Dipshit!
We now have Capture Enemy Outpost, which is a good one considering the enemy home objective is very lightly defended. Psychic sees the last 3 wounds stripped from the knight, although it was a very close thing and came down to Magnus getting 2 mortal wounds off with Tzeentch's Firestorm. Big Bird only manages to kill one of the 8-bound, I think. One of the 8-bound units in the center gets snuffed out from a variety of spells from the keepers, leaving just the lone survivor from the fiend's assault earlier. Oh, and Magnus smites the demon prince to death before it can decapitate any more demonettes. In shooting, I want to make sure the Hellbrit dies as I don't like relying on charges out of deep strike, so I pop +1 to wound on the termies, who then easily destroy it with bolter fire. The chariot whips one of the 8-bound to death, and one survives on 1 wound. There's nothing else for the laser destroyer to shoot at now, so it gears up for some massive overkill. But this absolute legend tanks the entire volley to the face.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yes, this means he survives unscathed from a volley that moments ago slew the greater brass scorpion. He doesn't get much time to enjoy his good fortune, though, as he's then immediately run over by the chariot. The lone 8-bound in the center is then snipped, pummeled, whipped, trampled, and most probably licked. After a charge from the 2 keepers, he dies in exquisite ecstasy. At least this means he probably stops being angry for a few milliseconds. And from this we score storm hostile objective. Enemy turn 3. Reeling from our combined assault last turn, they score no primaries. Eager to start evening the score, the word bearers Termes, Disco Lord, and Possessed, now move up aggressively. The regular 8-bound come out of reserves, and can get right next to the Scarab Occult Termes, due to being close to their own board edge.
Oh shit.
And World Eaters have obviously racked up a ton of blood tithe points, which they spent last turn to resurrect Angron. He then deep strikes back in near the center.
He's back.
Not sure what happens in Psychic, but I think the Termes probably get buffed up again. Nothing exciting happens in shooting, although I think Shallaxi is wounded quite badly by meltas and whatnot from the Termes. But in the charge phase, Angron makes his charge into Zarakil, and the Disco Lord charges both of the keepers. The Possessed charge the demonettes down here, and easily mauler them. Angron eviscerates Zarakil without breaking a sweat.
Ouch.
But the Disco Lord comes unstuck against Shallaxi, thanks to her -1 to be hit and wounded, and he only manages 2 wounds on her, and takes 7 in return. Over here, man, these 8-bound are frickin' nuts. They kill 5 of the 8 Termes, and only lose 1 guy in return. Our turn 3. Again, no picture of cards.
We'll make do.
I don't know what's more annoying, the lack of card pictures, or the wasted time that I spend referring to the lack.
Okay.
Anyway, I can say that we're ahead on points, with more for both primaries and secondaries. Magnus flaps down from his lofty perch to try and deal with the Possessed. Our backfield's looking pretty safe and secure, and there are no more deep strike threats to worry about. Speaking of deep strike, we still have 1 unit of demonettes to bring in. They're able to get onto the enemy home objective to score capture enemy outpost.
It was a convenient place to stay.
Psychic's a bit piss poor this turn for some reason. The Lord of Change puts just 2 wounds onto Angron. Only 1 mortal wound goes onto the Disco Lord. Magnus tries to zap the Possessed, but they make a ton of feel no pain saves and don't lose any models. He does, however, manage to strip Angron's invulnerable save with Twist of Fate. And then the Laser Destroyer takes aim and sends Angron back to the warp again.
Bingo.
Magnus then charges the Possessed, and wipes them all out in one go, thanks to some unlucky save rolls from the Word Bearers. In the center, Shallaxi finishes off the Disco Lord, but, thanks to his Gorget of Eternal Hate, he spitefully destroys her in return. Up here, the 8-bound finish off the Scarabs and move on to their home objective, although the Demonettes still hold it. And here's how the board looks at the end of battle round 3. World Eaters use their blood tithe points to resurrect Angron again. Enemy turn 4. The Termes stomp towards Magnus, and Angron deep strikes back in near the Lord of Change.
He's back.
The Termes get buffed up a bit, and do 5 wounds to Magnus with all their shooting. The Termes then charge Magnus, and Angron makes another successful charge from Deep Strike, into Big Bird.
You gotta be kidding me!
I should mention that I think by this point World Eaters have also racked up +1 to charge, and exploding 6s in combat. Well, Angron easily maulers the Lord of Change. Magnus fares better, though, only taking 3 wounds from the Termes, although he doesn't kill any in return. Up here, bad luck for the 8-bound, as they charge and kill most of the Demonettes, but a single one survives, and one of the 8-bound is slain too. Our turn 4. We draw 3 cards that we can't score this turn, but we'll pretty easily collect them in the enemy's turn 5. We take a look at the scores, and we're already far enough ahead that the enemy can't catch up to us in their remaining turn, so it's a material, pun intended. We therefore call the game there. The final score at the end of turn 4 shakes out at a 65-35 victory to Tzeentch and Slaanesh. Praise to the Architect of Fate, and glory to the Lord of Excess. Yeah, it would have been good to have a better record of our cards, but it was a big battle and lots to think about. An incredibly fun match, in which luck was definitely on our side. Taking out the Scorpion turn 1, for example, Magnus killing all 5 Possessed in one fell swoop, the Laser Destroyer surviving the Knight's Barrage, the Demonettes surviving the 8-bound's assault, the list goes on. For me, the Laser Destroyer once again takes its place as my most valuable model. In combination with my access to Twist of Fate to strip invulnerable saves, it basically meant that it could easily delete or finish off anything on the board, and would have had no trouble sending Angron back to the warp for a 3rd time in turn 4. I wasn't very familiar with Slaanesh Daemons, and they struck me as very interesting and very cool, with a good mix of speed and lethality, and a fantastic roster of psychic powers. The enemy army, especially Word Bearers, We're hampered all throughout the battle by poor dice rolls, and our luck held out when it needed to, so it seems Tzeentch may really have been on our side. Anyway, that'll do it for another report. Thanks to my opponents and my co-general, and thanks for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, subscribe, and all that shiz. Until next time.